background, I studied in Brazil soybean production. I did my dissertation on that in 1993, and I worked in human rights there, and I saw how people displaced were then in shelter towns, squatting on private land, subject to abuse. This is happening all around the world. This happens. We had the enclosure acts in this country, and then you had the cowboys in North America, armed herdsmen, pushing people off the land to the city culture and fed by monoculture. In this, since the Second World War, we've had the World Bank and the IMF giving structural adjustment plans to third world countries who can get grants, loans, on the basis that they carry out monoculture, most of which is for animal feed or
the Islamic solution for
meat in
environmental problems.
The soybean production, 95% of soybean production in the Brazilian rainforest is destined for animal products. And this is in a situation where 1 billion people are severely malnourished.
Can we move a little bit more quiet than? Can we move?
Sorry, so is this an ideology that you follow, or have you got a question?
Yeah,
a specific question?
If you like, I've got a culture which I'm involved in, which is the Rainbow Family of Living Light. So you could say that the Rainbow Family are from my perspective, and I can only speak as an individual, is inspirational behind the Green movement. So the Green Party, like green issues, the environment, festivals, back to nature, the reconnection with nature. So some call Rainbow Family the largest group of non-members in the world. So there's no bank accounts, no buildings in that sense. And we gather off-grid in nature. So the guideline, usually for a lunar cycle, is over a month. And we have like a seed camp where we go to the land and we decide where the central fire is going to be, we decide where the kitchen is going to be, that kind of thing. So preparation before we open together. And we fetch water from springs, and we cook on open fires, and the music is non-amplified, we can celebrate free from alcohol, drugs, technology, and domestic animals. And
Sound like the Amish people.
So we use the talking stick, okay? So the talking stick comes from the Native American people because the Rainbow Gathering started in America. After Woodstock, the story goes there were Vietnam veterans who were out in the wilderness because they were trained to be able to do that. There were people who took psychedelics and they saw the city culture and freaked out. And then you had environmental activists. And they're all coming together, and the Native Americans said, look, if you're all coming from diverse backgrounds, use this tool as the talking stick. You can talk in turn. And just because I've finished speaking, it doesn't mean I've finished. I can reflect, pause, meditate, I have the attention of the circle. Attach the stick as a feather, so if I've got a question in the circle, I could ask my question, I keep the words, take the feather and pass it, and people would restrict themselves to that topical question, or they just pass it in silence. So that's the way we communicate within the gatherings. So that's why I say it's an experiential culture. We don't have any scripture, we've got nothing written down, but there is a verbal, oral prophecy that I've heard repeated. Different forms, but the one that I've heard most often repeated is in a time when the animals are dying and the land has been ravaged, come forth the rainbow warriors from all cultures and creeds, the oppressed and the dispossessed, and through their actions and deeds turn the land green again. So there's nothing written down, this is like an oral thing. Other than that, it's
how would you basically propagate that ideology of yours in this world now?
Yeah, so
would you expect everyone to basically go down and go back in history? Whatever civilization we have already established today, want to make a U-turn on most of that?
Well, like a Luddite.
Say again?
A Luddite. The Luddites are the guys who broke up all the machinery.
Oh, I see.
They didn't like progress or this idea. Within the gatherings, we're free from alcohol, drugs, technology, and
But technology can be
domestic
good,
animals. Yeah,
Not bad
but
on
this is within the gathering. So many people are addicted to
Like,
all
for example,
sorts
that
of things.
stick you talked about,
Yeah.
which you passed on.
Yeah.
Today we got something like the ambulance wheel, which people can misuse it, but then
Yeah.
there's a lot of use as well.
Yeah.
Like back in the days when we didn't have people communicating across oceans
Yeah.
and across continents. Today that has become like a norm.
A lot of people say with the rainbow that it was in Europe formed by activists. So the idea was the rainbow was a retreat away from what addictive patterns, reconnecting with nature, in order to come back into the mainstream society and affect social change.
Okay. But for that, you don't need to completely discard technology.
I'm not saying that. But what we do is we beat the bounds and we say within this space, for this period of time, we're going to be free from that. We can celebrate free from that.
Free from what?
Technology.
So you ask
For that period of time.
How long
But
is
in the car park, it's not within the bounds. Or sometimes at Rainbow Gathering there's a
Oh, you mean
pirate
only in the
camp.
gathering? You don't need
Yeah,
the technology?
within the Rainbow Gathering. It's a period of a lunar cycle. A fair amount.
You know, when you talk about the real world, I don't talk about the utopia. We talk about
You know that's real is connected with royal. Yes, in Spanish, la familia real.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about the etymology of some words. I'm talking about the real world, and you know what I mean. So in a real world,
The cruel world you're talking about.
I don't know what kind of person you are. So the pessimistic people might think the world is cruel. I see both good and bad in the world. Yes, I'm a realist. So when there is good in the world and when there's good in the technology, good in the people, then you need technology.
Yeah.
So you need to largely diversify that and also use it rather than misuse it.
So how about the question that I was asking?
I still don't know what your question is. I think yours is more of an ideology.
The question is essentially if we as a human race are destroying God's creation through, I would suggest, through monoculture and profit,
Oh yeah, that's bad. So destroying
the commodification of animals, buying and selling for money, not looking at them as sentient beings. So we're destroying the planet. You know, there's a general scientific consensus. You know, we've destroyed 60% species of this planet in the last 60 years, and things are accelerating. Yeah. So my real question is, what are we going to do? So the prophecy is actions and deeds. The Rainbow Warriors, through their actions and deeds, will turn.
I mean, in terms of saving the planet, I'm all for it. In terms of saving the environment, all the destructive things that we see in the community, and that includes the meat industry and also the food industry. Yeah, obviously we must not harm either the planets, the resources of the planet. We must not misuse them rather. But I'm not one of those people who are saying, okay, everybody should become a vegan and vegetarian in order for the planet to be a good place to live in. Okay, because at the end of the day, the animals themselves eat the other animals, so you cannot stop the other animals. Basically, we cannot tell them to become a lion to become a vegetarian. Neither can you tell the omnivorous species, the human beings, to become vegans. I mean, it's their choice. If they want to, it's entirely up to them.
Well, that's it, and that's the two prongs for me. One is advocacy. With advocacy that I practice, we operate on the principle of receptivity. So when we're out in the streets and we're showing pictures of animal exploitation on screen, it's not the same as in reality, it's on screen.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I can ask people, if they stop, they're interested, that's the principle of receptivity, I would then engage with them. I might ask two questions. I might ask, what do you think of this? And then the other question I might get is, what do you feel about this? And I've noticed, because I've done it a lot, that the response is very different when you ask what do you think of this and what do you feel of it. If it's what do you think of it, there's a kind of raising in the energy, justification, mind energy, If I ask people what they feel about what they're seeing on the screen, there's a like, that's awful.
Yeah, because one is emotional, the other is more rational. So yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, we do know that there are businesses out there who want to line the pockets. At the end of the day, the least thing on their minds is the animal welfare or anything else.
But that's the two prongs, you see. One is the advocacy based on receptivity of the general public, which a lot has gone. It's like veganism is identifying with veganism. It's gone from 150,000 in 2006 to 550,000. This is Maury poll in 2016. So they're talking about between 3 and 5 million right now. There's a lot of vegetarians have gone on board with cutting out the dairy products. That's a significant proportion of the population now, from being like a quarter of the people. The majority are young people.
Let me ask you something. You've probably worked in this field and you know more about it than me. You talk about the animal welfare, you talk about the environment. What about the human suffering? Do you think that takes a priority over the animal welfare?
I think they're connected. I think they're intimately connected.
How are they?
Well, because we're all dependent on the same ecosystem, and if the other species go down, it's not. I don't believe that the human species will survive.
No, but you're talking about the end times and completely annihilation of the earth when all the food has run out. We are not talking about that. We are talking about the immediate. Like I said, I was a realist.
About right the immediate, right now.
Yeah, right now we have lots of humans who are hungry, who are basically displaced, who are refugees because of this wars and all the other factors that have put them in that situation. If I was a human being, yes, my priority would be the human species, and they should be taken care of first, because their suffering and their need is something which directly reflects upon myself in terms of I feel more if a human suffers than, say, for example, if a butcher basically kills an animal for meat, for consumption. You see what I mean? So
what I'm saying is that the monoculture, most of the crops that are grown on the planet aren't destined for humans. They're destined for the animals.
Really?
Yeah. We've got 70 billion animals on this.
And what are these animals?
You know how much?
Whom are these animals destined for?
Mostly for the Western cheap meat.
For human consumption, right?
For human consumption.
Yeah. So ultimately, whether it's the crops or the animals, they're cultivated for human consumption.
But that's what I mean, it's connected.
Yeah.
The displacement of people is mostly animal fodder.
No, but the point I'm trying to make here is that this cultivation of both crops and the cultivation of industries like
the structural adjustment plans,
meat and all that is for human consumption. Now what I'm saying is that the planet is capable of producing enough for the entire world population. Even with the 7 billion population, 8 billion population, I think it's still more than adequate. But because of the corruption, because of certain elite who want to make the most profit from the resources of this planet, maybe the distribution is unequal.
Yeah, so that's why I get onto the other prong. So talking about the structural adjustment plans that have been happening since the end of the Second World War, the IMF and the World Bank will give loans to third world countries depending on them increasing their monoculture on the Western system, and most of that monoculture is actually to feed animals. For people to have like high consumption of meat in Western countries.
There's consequences if they don't repay the loans.
So I mean most of those loans are going to the rich elites in those countries.
No, but even it goes to poorer countries as well. And I know many countries in the world today that have been borrowing from the IMF who are now basically in debt, and a lot in debt, and now they have to basically rely on maybe overtaxing the population, and because of that it creates a lot of You see, I'm a Muslim, and one of the things that we hold firmly onto is basically to do away with anything that involves interest, like usually, you know. And most of the banks, including the IMF, they all rely on this main principle of asking for interest for whatever they are lending.
So the Rainbow family, we have what we call the magic hat. The magic hat, right? After we have 2 meals a day. After each meal, someone sings a song. And someone goes around and passes the hat. You can be at the gathering for the whole month without any money. Like fetching wood is great. Fetching water is great, singing songs is great, or if you need to rest and do nothing, that's also great.
Do you have a job?
So I do gardening.
Okay.
Yeah. Also,
What about
I'm
your
a
kids?
full-time home educator, which takes up a lot of our time.
And what is your aspiration for them when they grow up?
For them to be in a connected community, you know. For me, like that's the ideal for me. Is the community sovereignty that I was speaking about. You know, the talking stick. You know.
What if your kids want to
implies-
become an engineer or a doctor?
What can I do?
No, but would you disapprove?
So for me, I'll just live my life, and I hope that I can open doors of opportunity for them earlier than what I had them open for myself, and that they can progress further in a peaceful culture.
That doesn't answer my question.
What's the question?
The
Sorry.
question is, if they wanted to become an engineer or doctor, what would you say to them? Would you agree with that or disagree with that?
For me, as a parent, I've got, you know, I heard the expression said that up until 7 years of age, you're like a god to your child. From 7 to 14, you're like a king to your child. Afterwards, you're simply a shepherd. So our oldest is 13, so approaching that point, and I can feel that, you know, and so it's like what I was saying, I can be an advocate.
No, but you're answering on behalf
And I
of your
can
child.
facilitate, like, you know.
My question was the other way around. What would you feel about your child, not what your child feels about you?
Well, in the home education, because we're taking responsibility, then I can't. You're asking me to project into the future.
No. Not only the future. Let's say even now. Let's say if your child has gone beyond college, even with the home education.
Well, they haven't so far. At the moment, we're looking like within the home education community. Like, there's one parent who wants to teach maths, and he's up for teaching 3 of them maths. Okay, so I've got to help with the homework. Suddenly, you know, I've got this textbook in front of me. And it's like, okay, I was okay at maths. I can help.
I mean, what I was
But
trying
the
to get
point
at
is, if you want to be a doctor and engineer, you've got to go through certain qualifications.
Of course, yeah.
And the thing is, with
so if your home education is unable to provide that, you will have no choice but to send them to a system which is outside your system, your rainbow system, whatever it is. You'll have to send them there because your system is unable to provide that kind
they
of
want to,
qualification.
if
See what
they
I mean?
want to, but for me, it's no problem if they don't want to follow that route.
Yeah, but if they do want to follow, would you have a problem with it?
Well, I will help them facilitate what they want to do.
No, but would you have a problem with that?
I don't know until I'm following.
You must have thought about it, your kids, I'm sure. Every parent thinks about the future.
Well, look, I'll tell you what, I provide a lot of space for my partner, talking about medicine. She's studying herbs. Okay. Like most doctors aren't trained in nutrition. They're trained in disease. They're trained in pathology. The treatment of illness.
Depends what kind of doctor
They're
you
not
are.
treated in.
If you're a doctor, you have done a specialty in nutrition, and obviously.
You've got
No, that's alternative medicine. I'm talking about allopathy.
But most of them aren't.
So there are nutritionists
Some of them
who
will
have studied
take.
nutrition.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about is GPs.
No, but even GPs,
Most of them won't have studied nutrition.
they might not have
Whatsoever.
specialized in that, but
No,
a GP
but
will send them to.
It's primordial. You know, it's central to good health.
No, of
It's
course. Look,
we
what I'm
consume.
saying,
And so
is
the
this. Look,
doctors should be able to give
we
advice
need
on that.
we need doctors in our community. We need engineers in our community. Yes, just because you have somehow gone away from, like you said, gone off the grid, that doesn't mean that the world doesn't require engineers and doctors. And to basically have engineers and doctors, they need specialist training.
What do you think about energy production, for example? Like, this is where Extinction Rebellion, so Extinction Rebellion are coming here in 2 weeks' time. They're all talking about, the whole thing with the Green Movement has been to talk about energy production. They've hijacked it since '92, the Rio Summit. It's all been about energy consumption and energy creation rather than reduction of energy consumption or animal agriculture. It doesn't appear. It's all about the energy. Now, if you talk about energy renewables, I would advocate, first of all, regional grids rather than national grid. Once you get regional grids, it's not just the big multi-corporations who get involved, big business who get involved in regional grids. You split the regional grid into like city grids, then smaller business who get involved.
Where do you think this regional grids get the power from?
They get them, this is what I'm saying, at the moment we've got these huge engineered windmills, and the nose comes from China. As they get smaller and smaller, the smaller businesses can deal with it. Until you get to the street level, you've got every single house is an energy creation hub, as well as an energy consumption. And then you don't have diminished responsibility. You're not going to leave the light on because you know how much you're creating energy. That's quite possible, and you can use recycled materials. There's all sorts